Hey everyone, and welcome to our deep dive into crypto market sentiment. Like how those emotions and perceptions actually drive the crypto market.
That's right. Think of it as like deciphering the vibes. But we're going beyond just gut feelings. We're using a whole set of methods to try to understand what the crypto world is really thinking and how all that translates to the crazy price swings we see.
Hey, definitely.
Yeah.
And I feel like social media is a huge part of that. Like you go on Twitter and everyone's got an opinion on Bitcoin.
Oh, absolutely. Platforms like Twitter and Reddit they're like these massive echo chambers for crypto talk. And it's interesting because during the 2020 Bitcoin halving event, did you know that something like 65% of tweets about it were actually bullish?
Wow. Yeah.
It shows you how that social media buzz can actually kind of reflect and maybe even fuel market trends.
That totally makes sense, especially when everyone's trying to get in on the action.
Yeah.
But it's not just like the average person on Twitter, right? Like news and media coverage have got to play a big role too.
Oh, they do. News events can just totally send shockwaves through the crypto world. And it doesn't even matter if it's good news or bad news. Like, take China's crypto ban back in 2021. Sentiment scores just tanked. Like, they dropped 30% within hours of that announcement.
Seriously.
Yeah, and get this. Google searches about the ban shot up like 500%. It just shows you the power that news stories have on market sentiment.
Yeah, that's wild. So we've got social media, we've got news coverage. What other kind of clues can we use to figure out sentiment?
Well, this is where it gets kind of cool. You know the blockchain itself, the tech behind crypto?
Hmm.
Well, it can actually reveal a lot about sentiment just based on how people are using it. It's like their actions speak louder than words, right?
Okay, I'm listening. Give me an example.
All right, so back in December 2020, a small group of big holders, they moved a massive amount of Bitcoin, like 92,000 Bitcoin onto exchanges. And this move, well, it kind of spooked people. Everyone was worried they were going to sell it all off. It actually dampened the whole market sentiment for a bit.
That's really interesting. So we can kind of see what the big players are doing and get a sense of how that might affect things just by looking at the blockchain.
Exactly. And you see the opposite happen too. During that huge bull run in 2021, the number of, active Bitcoin addresses, well, it's hit a record high, something like 1.34 million. And that surge in activity was a really strong signal, showed that people were feeling positive and that adoption was growing.
Okay, so we've got the social media chatter, news coverage, and what's happening on chain. But is there any way to gauge sentiment? Like more directly? I mean, like ask people what they're thinking.
There are actually a couple of ways to do that. One is sentiment surveys, where you straight up ask people what they think about the market, like their outlook.
Okay.
So for example, in January 2022, even after, Bitcoin had some price dips, a survey found that 65% of people who responded were still bullish on it.
So even when things are looking a little bit shaky, people are still holding on to that optimism. I like that. What about the other method you mentioned?
Oh, right. The crypto fear and greed index?
Yeah.
That's a fascinating one. Basically, it boils down the whole market sentiment into like a simple score between 0 and 100.
Okay, so the higher the score, the more greedy the market's feeling,
Yeah,
or optimistic, I guess.
exactly. And when we saw that big crash back in March 2020, the index just totally plummeted. Like it dropped all the way down to 10,
Wow.
which makes sense, right? Because everyone was panic selling.
Yeah, that really shows you how emotions can drive the market.
Yeah.
But even with all these indicators, it still feels like sentiment could be tough to figure out,
Yeah.
especially for someone who's, new to crypto.
Right.
How would you recommend navigating all these different signals?
Yeah, you definitely don't want to just blindly follow any one indicator. The key is to kind of combine sentiment analysis with other research you're doing, like looking at the fundamentals of a project,
Right.
The tech behind it, the team, even like the technical aspects of its price charts.
So it's more about like integrating sentiment into a bigger picture view rather than letting it, control everything you do.
Yeah, exactly. Think of it as another layer of insight. Sentiment can be really valuable for context, but it's not like a magic crystal ball or anything.
Gotcha. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah.
But here's a question. What if I'm seeing tons of positive stuff? Like social media is going crazy,
Yeah.
news headlines are all bullish, and trading volume is just through the roof. Wouldn't that be a pretty strong signal to buy?
It might seem that way, but
Really?
there are some things you got to watch out for. Remember that sentiment can change a lot depending on who you're looking at in the crypto world.
Right.
Experienced traders, they might not be so swayed by short-term hype compared to someone who's just starting out. you know?
Yeah, so a seasoned trader might look at all that excitement and think, okay, things are getting a little too hot.
Right.
Whereas someone new might just see it as like a chance to jump in.
Exactly. That's why it's so important to understand the different groups within the crypto ecosystem. Like, what are their motivations? What are they thinking?
It sounds like there's a real art to understanding and using sentiment
Oh,
analysis.
there is. And this is where the future of it gets really interesting. Imagine tools that can actually track sentiment across all those different groups, like giving you even more specific insights.
Now that would be super helpful.
Yeah.
Being able to see how different people are reacting to the same events could give you a real advantage.
And we're already starting to see early versions of this, Platforms are tracking sentiment among like specific influencers or analyzing the tone of discussions in those niche crypto communities.
So not just about like the overall market sentiment, but also the little differences between groups.
That's it. And as these tools get more advanced, they'll be even more valuable in helping us navigate the crypto world, especially since it's, always changing.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of ground here, but let's zoom out for a sec. Why should someone who's not like a professional trader care about all this?
Because no matter if you're a seasoned investor or just starting out, understanding sentiment can really help you make better decisions.
Hmm.
Avoid those emotional traps, spot potential opportunities, and just become more confident in the crypto market.
So it's like having a sixth sense for what's going on,
Kind of.
being able to see past the hype and make choices based on a deeper understanding of the market.
Yeah, it's about taking control of your crypto journey and not just, getting swept up in all the emotion.
That's a really great point. So for our listeners who are ready to dive into this whole sentiment analysis thing, where should they start?
Well, there are some really great resources out there, and a lot of them even have, like free trials or free versions. So for social media sentiment, there are platforms like Sentiment and the Tie. They use AI to look at all the chatter happening on Twitter, Reddit, and all those social media hubs. Gives you a real-time snapshot of what people are talking about.
Okay, so let's say I'm scrolling through Twitter and I see like a sudden spike in mentions of, I don't know, like some new altcoin. That could be a sign to maybe dig a little deeper and do a little more research.
Exactly. It's not about just blindly following the hype, but using those tools to inform your own research.
Makes sense. What about news and media sentiment? Are there any tools specifically for that?
Oh yeah, for sure. CryptoPanic and Cointelegraph Markets Pro are both really good. They collect news from all these different sources and analyze the overall sentiment. And they can even send you alerts if there's a sudden change in sentiment that might, signal something's about to happen in the market.
Wow, so it's like having your own personal news analyst. That's pretty cool. That could be really helpful.
Yeah.
Now, what if I want to dive into that on-chain data we were talking about before? Like, are there any good resources for that?
Oh, absolutely. So Glassnode and Coinmetrics are both excellent for that. They give you like really in-depth charts and metrics on, transaction volume, active addresses, and even those whale movements that we talked about earlier.
So if you really want to understand like what's happening on the blockchain itself, those are the platforms to go to.
Exactly. And don't forget about those sentiment surveys and indices that we mentioned before. Websites like alternative.me, they track the crypto fear and greed index. And Crypto Compare puts out sentiment surveys pretty regularly from people in the industry.
So there's really like no shortage of tools and resources out there.
No.
It's really about finding the ones that work for you.
Right. Yeah, for sure. But the biggest takeaway here is that sentiment analysis adds this whole other dimension to your crypto research. It's not a perfect predictor or anything, but it's a powerful tool that can help you navigate this crazy and exciting world.
It's about reading between the lines, right?
Mhm.
Understanding the emotional side of the market and just becoming a more informed, more empowered crypto enthusiast.
And here's a final thought to leave you with. As AI and machine learning get better, sentiment analysis is only going to get more sophisticated, more insightful. It's an amazing time to be involved in crypto. And with a deeper understanding of market sentiment, we can all navigate this ever-changing world with a little more clarity and maybe even, a little less FOMO.
Couldn't agree more. Well, thanks for taking us on this deep dive into the world of crypto market sentiment. Until next time, happy exploring, everyone.